as I shared with you before, my plan was to go to med school. I would say that I was quite ambitious. Wanted to become a surgeon, and on the side, really, what I wanted to do was to travel to different countries and go to like small communities where people didn't have access to healthcare and take medical teams with me. And then I realized if I was a hands-on doctor, I wouldn't be able to coordinate the trips because I'll be so distracted with treating people. So let's just say I backed out of my ambition because I wanted to be more functional. And so that led me to Cox Health, because I didn't really have any background in health administration. So I took an operations management role at Cox Health, and I transitioned from that into a director role with Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, also at Cox Health. So I did that for about 5 years. All the while, doing that stuff. I think I would say I've always been, I've always had that desire to create something, to have a business of my own, not just for the sake of having a business, but I always knew I was going to go that path at some point. It was just a matter of finding what was really worth my efforts. And then eventually, as I started to see in the workplace for me, I think the business side of things really kicked off when I began to identify within the hospital, people don't want to be at work. People don't care to be at work. They're there because they want to get paid. And that really broke my heart, because I felt like as humans, if I'm taking up a job just for the sake of getting paid, I'm shortchanging myself. And so that inspired creating Dami, which is really a career and leadership coaching business where I help coach people and help them discover what is it that I, really am looking to accomplish. And then how can I plug in to an organization so that I can get that thing done. So it's really helping people to find their place within the workplace, because I feel like the more people can identify that, the more people want to be there, the kinder they can be to each other, the more they would want to work together. It's like the missing piece, in my opinion, to help transform workplace issues and any kind of issues that you have in the workplace. I think it begins from answering that big question: why are you here? Yeah. Do you want to be here? So while doing all of that, July of 2018, I'm sitting in my office. I was thinking about my clients and how, they finally figure, what is it that I want to do? Then the problem becomes, how do I get the job? How do I get in front of the employer? How do I communicate my intention for that job in my job search? And I'm sitting in my office and the idea of Purpose Connect came up. I'm like, well, what if I could, create something that really just does the job for both parties while eliminating the overwhelm? Because, I think that one of the reasons people don't get seen is because recruiters and hiring managers, they get very overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Even I submitted a job last July, and in a matter of one day on LinkedIn, I had 130 applications. So it's impossible for somebody who really has intentions for a certain position and they know exactly what they bring to the table. That's just one step in the process. To get in front of the hiring person is nearly impossible when you have to navigate so many other people in the pool. Right now there's an average of 250 applications submitted to each job, and so if I'm a recruiter, I'm not going to look at 250 applications, right? I'll do the best that I can and then narrow it down to 4 to 6 people that I want to interview. then hire one person. So really the idea with Purpose Connect was, how do I make hiring feel very human, such that people are not overwhelmed with that many applications, both for the job seeker and the hiring person. And then the other part of that was going back to my initial point about workplace transformation. How do I help employers naturally begin to bring people into their organization who are not just a fit, but they want to be there? And then also, how can we begin to keep employers, leaders, more like, because you see employers have their own reviews and things, and a job seeker takes a job and 6 months down the line, guess what happens? They're quitting because it wasn't what they thought it was. At one point they're like, yay, I'm thankful, I just got a new job, and then 6 months down the line it's like, this job's no longer. So I think for me it was really, how do I begin to hold leaders and supervisors accountable too, so that when a job seeker comes into their job, they know exactly what they're getting, who they're getting, what they're walking into. But like I said, this was July of 2018. I didn't even know what I was doing. In fact, I told myself I was crazy, and I was like, just forget it. Like, that's just wishful thinking. And I didn't really do much about it until 2020. I hired Simbersoft because, as I said, I didn't know what I was doing. So it just so happened that you and I got in that conversation about this time last year, and we didn't even know what, we weren't really talking about anything specifically. I think we were just getting to know each other, and I mentioned that I had a project that I've been, looking at starting and all of that. I mean, I sort of started working on it, but again, the requirements is like the base of it, right? And that wasn't done yet. And so our conversations were just very natural in the way that it went, because it really, as I told you before, it really was more about you wanting to help me find the resources that I needed at that point in time. So at that point in time, I didn't even know you had a development company. I think I just thought you had some resources and you knew people that could potentially assist me with some of the things that I was looking for. Yeah. And so to your question about, why I brought Simbersoft on, I think it was just a matter of, we had already built a relationship and already built that trust, that when it came to time to make the decision, it was sort of like a natural transition. And it wasn't like, I didn't have to sit back and go, oh, do you think you want to work with this people? It was just, I know Ivan. Ivan's been helpful to me. I think he'll take care of this. The general task was really taking my flowchart, which was very, very basic.
It was okay.
I mean, it was a good starting point, but I think in comparison to what you guys and your team, what you built out of it, it was definitely, it was like, oh wow, we were able to pull all of this technical requirements out of this simple flowchart that, I already had. So I think it was just taking that and translating that in technical terms, and that was like the basic task, in my opinion. Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think that Elena and Tatiana actually, they did make it even better, because I know that there were certain ways that I was thinking about the point systems and all of those things that Elena would come back to me and she would say, oh, I think we should, how about if we did it this way? So I think that was something I really appreciated too, was even though the ideas were in my head and I was, basically giving that to you guys to work with, you guys weren't just taking the ideas and like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and plug this in. There was, you could tell that Elena was putting in a lot of thoughts into what that ended up looking like eventually. It was a smooth process, and I say that because, we had started off with, negotiating with you, and then just taking that process and then bringing in everybody else on the team. And I know Adele had started initially as the analyst, and then, letting me know that it was probably beneficial to add on a project manager. I thought that really was, it was really good, because just thinking about all the stuff that Tatiana was bringing in, I couldn't really serve that purpose. And so I think it was a great idea to bring her on in the process as well. And I really liked how she then, as she came on and we talked about timelines and things, and she went ahead and built it out. And, we had talked about, we want to spend 2-3 months working on this, and how we stayed right on, we stayed right on target. And it was just really good to be able to see that. And I thought that even the process of like having the ability to work on the documents and the mock-ups and things when we were not together, me just having the ability to go on the mock-ups at a different time and like make my comments on them and say, let's change this, make this look this way. I think it really simplified the process, but I think the biggest thing was sort of like the efficiency of it, and just knowing that, if they said we'll have this by this time, it was ready at the time that they said they will have it. So that was I thought I was like really good. So right now we're in the MVP, and there's I brought a team on board that's now working on that. We actually have about 16 interactive, like actual designed interactive prototype.
Yeah, I know. I saw everything.
Yeah. Well, no, that you guys had your prototype, but this the new team for the MVP, they've actually created prototypes based on the design.
How it was? Was it?
No, it's a new design. It's like really, it's basically what it's going to look like at this point, because what you guys had was based on, was the requirements, and it was sort of like just the mock-ups of like what the look is, but they are creating the design based on, what the colors will eventually be. They're able to, now we have sort of like brand guidelines that we're working with, and and we're now at the point where we're actually, the MVP is just going right along. And every time I ask them, how's the requirements helping with that process, they're like, the requirements vary. They have all the stuff that they need. And I could see that even when they started to reveal the designs to me, that they really did get a sufficient amount of, requirements to be able to go off of, because, it's almost like they're pulling out the designs from my head when really it's what was on the requirements. So I think that it was a necessary step for sure. And I'm glad that I didn't try to bypass that in any way, because it was, it's the basis. And I'm thankful that we talked about it, and I saw the need for it, because I really do feel confident in what now they're building. As I said earlier, I think the most valuable thing for me was just having the ability to work with a team that I knew wasn't just on standby to take my ideas and just go with it, but they were also actively thinking, how can this be better? I think that was like the most valuable thing, because there were several times in the process that Elena would come back to me and she would be like, oh, here's my vision for this. And that was the other thing, was she always had a vision for, she'll send me a message and say, she drafted a vision for a part of it and she wanted me to take a look at it. And it was just, and this is like stuff that she's drafting based on just what I'm telling them. So I think that it was very, in spite of the language barrier, and that was the other thing was, I mean, when you look at what we ended up doing together, you wouldn't even know that there was anything like a language barrier, because they pretty much understood what I was looking for. So I think that was the most valuable thing, was seeing that both of them were actively thinking through the process. And then eventually, when we made the transition into MVP, also, I don't know if they had shared with you, there was a company that we were going to go with on the MVP initially that was a much lesser quote. And Tatiana looked at it, and Elena, and they said, this is not sufficient. Like, they're not giving you everything, and they're going. And so it was also seeing how much they were advocating for the quality of the experience that I was going to get with the MVP company, even though it wasn't them, and just helping me see that there was a need to have a more clarified estimate and all, something that was very much more detailed, that factored in all of the different pieces in the technical requirements. I think was really helpful, because I just hire somebody that could develop the MVP. But I'm not really thinking exactly. I'm like, I don't know, like, what all needs to go into estimate. Just tell me how much you're going to bill me and we'll, make it happen. But to see how, they were like advocating until we made the final decision, and, we ended up going with the company that was much more costly than the initial company. But it was just really, I felt at rest knowing that they were asking the important questions. Oh, what kinds of jobs have this guy's done? Can we see examples? We don't really know this guy's, so it was also, there were times when Tatiana would go back and see, are these people that were familiar with their work and all. And so that was like really, it was really good to see that she was like really advocating in that way. And so when I eventually made the decision, I felt confident in the decision because I knew I had Tatiana's eyes. So as I said, the MVP is going to go on for about the next 4 months. And the plan is to have the soft launch by the summer, and then have a test period of about 3 months, which is really funny because in my mind, initially, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to get the MVP done by like April, and now it's like, no, it does require much more. So it's, so talking about future plans, it's getting the 3 months test phase and then officially launching by the end of the year. The launch will be a career fair. It's a strategy to bring job seekers into the room. The initial focus will be Southwest Missouri, employers, job seekers, and then that will transition into the entire state of Missouri. And then the second year is when we'll actually expand out to the rest of the country. But we have I have the most relationships locally. So I figured the best way to go would be to target the local market. I'm actually sponsoring the HR conference in April.
Okay.
Next month. It's the Southwest Missouri HR conference, and that's some, they're tied to like the SHRM and the Society for Human Resources Management. And so that's sort of like a strategy to get out into that community, And between now and then, it's really just getting out, getting introductions. I do have some pending introductions to the HR at Missouri State jury, so that I can get them on board as a company that utilizes the platform, but also get access to the students as well and get them on the platform. So it's so that's what this year looks like. It's just really, continuing to promote it and get the word out and get people to start seeing that. And as we go through the MVP, the plan is to completely develop pieces and parts of the MVP so that people can start to get on, get their profiles set up and then start to release new features as we go on through the rest of the MVP.